once you post in the chat, then you might see your other friends pop up in there. And I wanted to introduce, thank you everyone first for joining us at CPF. We appreciate all of your support and donations, and membership is open for anyone. We have a whole host, slate of exciting webinars coming up in 2021, and including one on modernism in March. So you won't want to miss that. Keep track of what we're doing. I see all kinds of people coming in. Here's Bob from Sherman Oaks and Alan from Murrieta. And I know that my special friend Annalisa is somewhere in that audience because I saw her name, and she's coming from Sydney, Australia. And we'll have a little chat with our panelists today about that very devoted group of people who come every year to Palm Springs from Australia. But I wanted to introduce my very special friends, and they can go ahead and start your videos, guys. It's Alan Hess and William and Mark from Palm Springs. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Good. Thanks. Happy to be here. Thank you.
So I'd just like to say that the three of them have agreed to do this on fairly short notice, because what we want to do is share all the exciting things that are coming up in Modernism Week. There has been a change. So can you three just introduce yourselves and how you're related to Modernism Week?
Sure. The chairman goes first.
Oh, yes.
Okay, read the fine print. Hi, William Kopelk, chairman and co-founder of Modernism Week.
And I'm Mark Davis, treasurer, and I work on the presentations and lectures and films.
And I'm Alan Hess. I am on the board of Modernism Week, and I'm an architect and historian.
Thank you, guys. I see we even have Melissa and Jim from England are calling in. I think they just moved there from California, right? So we're going to see a lot of our friends in here. So I have some slides to show as well. What I wanted to do was really just give everyone an idea. First, we're very sad that we can't all be in Palm Springs right now. How are you guys doing out there?
You know, last year we had 162,000 people, over 380 in-person events, 11 days, but that was last year. So it is a bit heartbreaking this year, but I think we've managed to bring a little bit about what Modernism Week is all about to the online experiences.
And what made you decide to switch? I mean, obviously you had to switch to online, but how did you figure that out? How many experiences do you usually have during Modernism Week, which is actually 10 days, not 7? Right. Yeah. So, there's a lot of activities. How many activities do you usually have for the in-person?
Over 300.
Over 300 always.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you that the virtual aspect started, I would say, this past fall, when one of our board members, Maureen Urbe, said she'd like to do a virtual signature home tour. So we said, go ahead. And she had her own videographer, and she did the 5 homes and edited. It was beautiful. It was our most popular virtual event we had. So the rest of us sort of followed that lead while still keeping an eye on what the health statistics were and realizing that we weren't going to be able to do anything in person.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought as a board that, well, if we can't have Modernism Week, we'll bring a little bit of the different aspects of Modernism Week to the online experiences. So we have tours of Palm Springs, we have presentations, we have educational programs, we have fun programs like with Charles Phoenix and such. So it's a little bit of everything, not near the big program we had before, but hopefully everyone will love it.
I'm going to love it.
One of the good things about it is that it is broadening our audience, because you don't have to come to Palm Springs. They can be anywhere in the world and learn about and experience in a bit of a way online what Palm Springs Modernism is all about.
I'm seeing people post in the chat. I wanted to say that Alan Hansen said he went to a cocktail party at the Elrod House in the past. I was at at least one of those cocktail parties. I think that was 2012, which gets us right into the slideshow I was going to show. So I'm going to share my screen. Like I said, this is going to be a fairly casual conversation just about what is Modernism Week. I pulled a lot of images, obviously just from the internet, from your Instagram. I wanted to actually look at that. So I did post this slide in the pre-roll, and you can go to modernismweek.com to see all of the schedule for the different events. So can you guys just real quick before we get into it, explain the difference between now and then what's happening in April?
Sure. The orange box is our April program, which we've never had before, but this year, because the Modernism Show and Sale is planned for that time, we thought we'd do a program with them as well. We're hoping to have some in-person events there. Of course, we'll monitor the health situation, everything like that, but there'll also be a robust online presentation too, with a couple of surprises I think will be very, very popular in April. The middle, the green box, is our Best of Modernism Week auction. And we put together a whole series of items and experiences that are based, a lot of them are based around our previous presentations at Modernism Week. So we sort of wanted to bring in like the best of modernism. So the best of modernism itself and the best of Modernism Week. And it's a lot of fun. There's some really great items. Then the last is the current program going on from February 1st to February 28th. And that is all online. I think there are 24 of them. And everything from free to $25, $35, $40, depending on what the program is. But you'll have tours of Palm Springs homes. You'll have a time with Charles Phoenix. You'll have a tour of Palm Springs. Just a lot of very different programs that so far, so good with their popularity.
And that Alan Hess has a few things.
Oh yeah, Alan
also.
Hess.
Yes, we'll be talking about them. I'm really excited to do this. One aspect is to bring modernism, to broaden even more what kind of subjects we're talking about. So it isn't just Palm Springs, but as we've done in the past, all across the country and indeed the world.
Right. So I have a slide up right now. It's for 2012. I think I started going in 2011 or 2010, like kind of a long time ago. What year was Modernism Week established?
2015, I believe.
No, like 2009
No,
or something.
What is it? I can't remember. I can't count. I think this is our 17th year.
Wow. Okay. So that's before 2015, William.
He was the founder of it. Yeah.
I don't remember.
One of
either.
the founders.
It just
Well, I have
happened.
a picture. Yeah, so I'm showing everyone a picture from 2012, and maybe you could just talk about this photo, which shows
Well,
a Lloyd
I may-
Wright image.
Yeah, because this is one of the great things about modernism in Palm Springs. It is uncovering unknown treasures. And what you see on the other side of the double-decker bus is Lloyd Wright's Oasis Hotel from 1921. Lloyd Wright, of course, was the son of Frank Lloyd Wright. And I, as a historian, consider this one of the most important modern buildings in the United States. And it's not recognized the way it should be. But that's what Palm Springs Modernism Week does. It spotlights important unknown architecture.
And one of the other things, if I can add to that, is when we have the regular Modernism Week, these buildings are illuminated at night. So it's part of our architectural heritage, and the year and the architect is put on, as well as illuminated on the side of the building. And this whole building, we illuminate with orange light. It's quite spectacular.
So on our double-decker bus tours, it does include also Spanish eclectic, all periods of Palm Springs architectural heritage, but it does concentrate mostly on mid-century modern, and it goes around to all the little neighborhoods that you might not see if you come to Palm Springs on your own. But I think there's a little clip, but a double-decker bus you can see over the hedges and the fences. So
I was going to say that. I was going to say
you
that's
do get
a
a good
special
look at
thing.
everything. Sometimes
You get
it's a
to
surprise
peek
to
over.
people.
Yeah, John's going to
Sometimes
roll
it's
the
a
tape,
surprise.
I think.
But we took the modernism double-decker bus tour, and instead of a double-decker tour, we're in a classic Mustang convertible.
Oh,
So
okay. I think John's going to
Jonathan's gonna
roll
play
it.
a quick clip on that.
Yep.
It's Modernism Week in Palm Springs, and we're offering you a unique virtual way to visit our city. We've pulled one of our premier double-decker architectural bus tour guides from the top of the bus and put him behind the wheel of a 1966 Ford Mustang convertible to give you a personal tour of some of the most beautiful and important mid-century modern structures in Palm Springs. He has the car and the keys to several amazing homes, and he's going to take you places that the bus tour cannot go.
Make yourself at home.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as Modernism Week takes you on an architectural driving tour of Palm Springs.
So, and that voice, we have a lot of talent on our board, and that voice is our executive director, Lisa Bossler-Smith. The best voiceovers ever.
No, that's fun. I was doing my little Palm Springs dance. I'm gonna have to share screen again. So John and I are actually really pushing the limits of, of our technology today. Okay, so let me know if I make a mistake. But so we're back on our picture of the Modernism Week bus. I want to go to the next one. As we talked about, you can get there at modernismweek.com. But I wanted to get to this point, which is Alan, you are, I think this is a new program, the Desert Modernist series with Alan Hess. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Right. This is coming out of this expansion of our audience online, globally, really. And we understand that a lot of people don't know who a lot of the well-known modern architects in Palm Springs are. Some people, there are a lot of people out there who don't know who Albert Frey, William Kreisel, William Cody, these names which are really familiar to people who have been coming to Modernism Week, but the world in general needs to know about these. So we have started this series called the Desert Modernists, which will highlight in a short clip, 12 or 15 minutes most, about each of those, so that every one of those famous architects will have a video about them taken at one of their buildings to describe what is important about these people.
I think, John, you have a clip you want to roll? I think we have one about Desert Modernists. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Hess, and I invite you to watch our new series for Palm Springs Modernism Week on the architects of desert modernism.
The first two, we have an introduction, and then the first two focuses are Albert Frey and William Cody. And in hopefully in April and later, we will continue with the rest of the well-known architects.
Great.
We do have a little game going on with the board members. Is like, how many times is Alan Hess mentioned in Palm Springs 2020, Modernism Week 2021? He's in quite a few videos and auction items and books and everything. So yeah, it's a game.
Well, you know how much
but Alan's very prolific.
I know, I'm jealous of Alan because he's so talented. It makes me kind of mad, actually. Anyway, so I wanted you all, if you could just talk a little bit about camp. So I'll give my own experiences with camp. The fun thing about that, I'd like to find out how you can, I know that you can do this virtually, and I just want you to help everybody understand that. So at camp, the great thing about it, Modernism Week Camp, is you just walk in and you see a friend that you haven't seen for years, and you just walk around with your friends. So I walk around with Annalisa usually, and I call her like a 3-foot person, like you can't walk more than 3 feet without getting stopped, right? Because if you've ever hung out with Annalisa, you've seen this. So can you talk about how you kind of translating that camp experience to your virtual? Like part of it is this right now, where we can meet in the chat window. So you're having some parties, right, on your virtual experience, right?
We did in the fall, yes,
Mhm.
yes. I would say the camp really was created because there was the need for a meeting place for everybody. It really is a directional and informative kind of place, as well as a place for our sponsors to showcase some of their product, as well as a place for the bus tours to start. We even had a theater off of it. We have other lectures and films there in conjunction with the Annenberg Theater, which Mark sets up that programming. So it was sad we couldn't have it this year, but it is an amazing feat that Chris Motley directs and coordinates every year, and we're hoping to have it next year.
Yeah, I can't wait. And then I want to say that those lectures at the Annenberg, I've seen some incredible events there. Mark, I know that you're putting a lot of those together. The Mad Men year was amazing.
A lot of fun, yes.
That was so much fun. And the lecture about the Incredibles and the production design of the Incredibles and the featuring of modernist architecture. in animation was also astonishing. And then of course, like Janine Opelwald talking about production design and modernism. And also I've been up there too. So it's a lot of fun. So let me go on with the slides and you can keep talking.
Christine, what were you talking about?
Oh, I was talking about Alfred Hitchcock and architecture.
Which is a great...
And I'm working on, that book is almost finished. It's always almost finished, but.
Oh, well then 2022.
Well,
2022 is actually my book on Alfred Hitchcock and modern architecture is planned to come out in spring of 2022. So
then you need to
just
speak at Modernism Week in 2022.
I will totally.
You're on the list.
Oh, thank you. I have new research to share only with your audience.
That's good.
Great.
But what we tried to do this year is to repeat the Annenberg, because at the Annenberg, we don't just talk about Palm Springs, we've had days like Mexico City Modern and Havana Modern and Michigan Modern, which actually some books came out of Michigan Modern. It's just a great thing to have different topics that are of interest to many people, but of different locations, different places. And that Modernism Week modernism is just found everywhere. So we do try to broaden our horizons with the presentation.
And at the same time, showcasing the relationship and the ribbon of continuity of modernism and how it saturated our psyche.
Alan knows all about that. All he does is study modernism, I think, anymore. So can you tell us a little bit about the tours? So I have a slide up about the tours, your signature home tour series.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say thanks to Maureen Urbe and
a board member.
Yeah, she came in with this season, the home tours 2. The home tours 1 are also available online. So she is just a powerhouse at that. She researches them. She contacts the owners. She
works with them,
commands the whole thing. And it's an interview basically of her as walking through and talking to the owners about the house and how the history of the house.
And it's very entertaining. It's very interesting. And she knocked it out of the ballpark this year. With the Southridge house here, Trina Turk, Martin Lawrence Ballard, it's just really well done. And Jonathan, you probably, and the Gans house, it's gorgeous. So here's a quick look at the home tour this year.
I think what first drew us to Palm Springs was the mid-century aesthetic.
That's one of the most appealing design elements of modernism, too, to have that indoor-outdoor connection.
Cody often finished a house complete in every detail, but Elrod had a strong design influence over the architecture.
So essentially it's a steel frame with cinder block and glass.
As soon as we saw this house, we fell in love and decided to go streamline modern instead.
You know, you come through a small front door and you walk in and suddenly you're hit, wham, with this.
This is sort of like the prow of the ship, and you have a really great view.
Cody's courtyard, he often designed these very transparent houses.
As soon as you get off the 10 freeway and get onto the 111, you kind of can just exhale, and it's relaxing.
Yeah, these show how Palm Springs modernism really is not just flat-roofed houses or butterfly wing houses, but everything from streamlined modern, like Trina Turk's house, to neo-formalism, like the Ballard house that's featured, as well as Cody and all of these beautiful glass houses. There's so much dimension to Palm Springs modernism.
And if that doesn't make you want to come to Palm Springs next year for Modernism Week, I don't know what would. But yeah, it's just so well done. It's a very enjoyable presentation.
No, I'm excited. I've been on a couple of those tours, and the Gans house is amazing. And of course, I wasn't swimming, but they have a swimming pool. You can swim up to the bar, so it's like a bar.
Yes.
Yes, it's in the living room, and the other side's a swimming pool. So technically, you could swim up to the bartender. Real quick, while we're on the Gans house, Alan, do you have an update on maybe the Orange County preservation situation? Because the Gans, they donated their house towards a preservation effort that you were involved with, right?
Yeah, this is, again, part of Palm Springs Modernism Week. It isn't just tours. It is a nonprofit, and it supports modernism efforts really around the country. And I'm also on the board of Preserve Orange County here in Orange County, California. And we're a new organization, but Palm Springs Modernism Week and the GANs last year let us have a fundraiser for a threatened building here in Orange County. And of course, it was a fabulous party at the GAN's house, just beautiful music. We gave away a print, an original print by Shag, the artist, of this threatened building, which is the Stuffed Shirt restaurant in Newport Beach, California, by Ladd and Kelsey from 1961. And I can just report now that about a week ago, the California State Historical Resources Commission approved it for National Register status. And that's because of the fundraiser. We paid for the nomination by the fundraiser that we held at Modernism Week. So there are these ripple effects of Modernism Week that go out all over the world. But we at Orange County certainly appreciate that support.
No, that's wonderful news. And I'd seen the email come out about that. So I'm glad you could update us. I'm going to share again. And we have some more interesting stuff coming up. This one, I know, Mark, you wanted to address the Lunchinar house in Palm Springs. Can you tell us about this whole effort? Because it's kind of a long story, but how can you let people know what's happening?
Yes, it's been a long effort. But 5 years ago, I heard about the Lunchinar house being placed somewhere in Queens, New York. And I thought the Lunchinar house, I didn't even think it existed anymore. And so they had saved it and they were going to place it in Sunnyside, Queens. So I called them and said, well, two architects who saved it, Michael Schwarting and Francis Campani. I called them and said, would you mind coming to Palm Springs in the middle of February from New York and tell us about the Lunchinar house, because I think it'd be very interesting since we're the land of fray. And they did, but by the time they came, the place where they had thought it was going, they lost the opportunity. So at that presentation, which was packed full, we just simply asked the audience, don't you think Palm Springs would be the best place for it to be? And the audience went, yes. Would you support it? The audience said, yes. So we started a committee to bring a Lunchinar to Palm Springs. We had a few bumps in the road, whatever. It got shipped out 2 years ago in a container. So it looks like an IKEA flat pack in the back of the container. And just this last August, the museum gave us an opportunity that we never had before, and that was to place it in the south parking lot, since they had additional parking now from the new construction across the street. And so the Lunchinar Foundation donated the Lunchinar house to be part of their permanent collection. So, and they're very thrilled about that because simply because they own the Frey house too, and they have a large amount of Frey's archives. And so they are going to build a program all around the Lunchinar house. We are supposed to break ground this month to at least do site prep. There's a lot of work, earthquake and drainage and everything like that. But by April, hopefully during Modernism Week in April, we can start going vertical with the framing. And hopefully we'll be done by the end of May, early June, for the exterior portion of the house. The interior will be quite a few years before it's done because it all has to be fabricated and researched and everything. But it's a great addition to Palm Springs and its architectural heritage. And we'll have everything from Frey's first building that he did when he came to America to the last structures he built in Palm Springs, the entire arc of his career right here in Palm Springs. So that's pretty important. The website. And we do have a website, Lunchinar.org, if I could promote that, Lunchinar.org, which gives a lot of history behind it. And there's also a little film there on it. And I think Jonathan has a clip of a film that the foundation did for Modernism Week this year. It's just sort of a quick view of its history.
The Lunchinar house has all of these different planes that it's important on. In a way, it's where all these things come together. The goals of modern architecture, the creative work of an important individual, Albert Frey, and this long-felt desire to industrialize, prefabricate,
When I first saw the house at 87, it was covered with graffiti and full of empty champagne bottles.
The house survived with a lot of complications. We've spent a number of years trying to find the right place for it.
This past year, Illuminaire House Foundation generously gifted Illuminaire House to the museum here in Palm Springs, which was just a thrilling moment for all of us involved with the museum and those of us who love architecture and design. The Illuminaire House project will go vertical by April. It'll celebrate the 90th anniversary of the Illuminaire House when it was first installed in New York.
We can't wait to start digging.
Now, also, this only increases the significance of Palm Springs as an architectural center globally, because we'll have the Illuminaire House, which is important historically, but we also have Richard Neutra's Kaufman House, the steel house, and we have Donald Wexler and Rick Harrison's prefabricated steel houses, tract houses as well. So scholars can come here and really study a great part of the history of steel in modern architectural history, now that we have the Illuminaire House as well.
Yes, and I do want to mention that the film was made for us by Jake Gorst, and he produced and directed the two Albert Frey films, Albert Frey Part 1 and Albert Frey Part 2. They are on the website. They're very well done. They're some of the best documentaries that I've seen. So it'd be worth, if you haven't seen it before, Frey 1 and Frey 2, see it. You'll learn a lot. If you've seen it before, watch it again because you'll get some more out of it.
It's available on Amazon Prime Video, the first Frey.
No, it's available on our website,
I'm
William.
sorry, that too. But the
Modernism.
Redirect.
No, it is not on Amazon.
All right, I'm going to share my screen again. So as Charles would say, I know who doesn't love retro Disneyland. So this would be your chance to talk about some of the experiences that you have coming up for Modernism Week.
Well, Charles Phoenix is a fixture of Palm Springs now. He started out doing a couple of double-decker bus tours, and the moment they went on the website, they sold out immediately. So that, oh, there's some interest here. So he does a daily double-decker bus tour during Modernism Week, at least 8 or 9 of the days, not every single day. And then he usually has a program at the Annenberg Theater with his famous slideshows. He is hilarious. People love him. You know, it's just irreverent. It would probably give an architectural historian a heart attack to hear what some of the things he said. But if you love him, you'll laugh all the way along with him. So he has one that he did for us on the October program, and then there's a new one on Disneyland on the current February program as well, online experience.
Excellent. Somewhere I have a picture of me as a little girl with like Captain Hook, and me screaming from the 60s. All right, so let me go on to the next slide and see what else we have. So you had mentioned, Alan, you mentioned the Kaufman House. Can you just give us like a couple words about why this house is so important? This is in Palm Springs.
And it is one of Richard Neutra's masterpieces, 1946. A steel house for Edgar Kaufman, who is a prime patron of modern architecture. He also commissioned Frank Lloyd Wright to design Falling Water. And this Kaufman House in Palm Springs is just as distinguished as Falling Water as well. And an example of why Palm Springs is important architecturally. But I'd like to just add one point just after Charles Phoenix, that slide, which is that Palm Springs modernism is fun. You know, modern architecture is fun. And of course, when we're in person, we have parties and all sorts of events. We can't this year, but with Charles's video, a bit of that, you know, the fun about modern architecture that appeals to everyone comes through on our online experience.
I think so. It's a high end, and it's also just fun times. I think these architectural bookends that people don't always realize that Palm Springs has the Kaufman house. Like they've seen the pictures, they know the house, they don't exactly know where it is. So let me show another building that you, there's a, I think you're featuring a movie.
Level
Oh,
House.
yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
The Level House. No, we do have, actually there are two experiences on the Level House. One, an architectural historian who is a current resident of the house did a video of us, and it's a really up close look at every square inch of the house. It's not in the best of condition now because it is on the market, and hopefully someone with very deep pockets will come and bring it back to its original splendor. But this is a very interesting film. It has vintage shots of it being built,
Really
the framework, everything on this hillside, which was like unheard of, the location that it was being built. So that's very good. And also PJ Latovsky's film on Neutra, which he filmed from around the world. Barbara Lamprecht's in it, and Alan, I think you're in it too.
I'm in it, yeah.
Are you? Yeah.
He's in everything.
You're in everything.
Yeah.
And he films, like he has drone shots of the Kaufman house, and it's a beautiful, beautiful film on Neutra. And it's really hard to put all of that into one film, but this film was premiered at Modernism Week 2 years ago. And I just want to mention that the Fray films, the Fray 1 was premiered at Modernism Week 3 years ago, and then Frame Part 2 was premiered last Modernism Week, last February. We miss doing things like that, but we wanted to bring them back because they were audience favorites. So now more people can experience all three of these films.
Right, and now seeing something about the Lovell Health House would give people, this is one of the first, what we would call international style homes in the United States, and is worldwide significance. And the steel frame was erected in approximately 40 hours. And I have found some great old newspaper articles about it where Lovell opened the house up every weekend, and Neutra himself was at the house giving the tours of the place. Can you imagine if we could just go back in time and see that?
Oh, and it was mobbed. Thousands of people wanted to see this house.
They put little directions in the LA Times how to park on that little street.
That was 1929 that this house was finished, which is, really.
Thank heavens we have an historian on this.
A couple of us, right? Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Farnsworth House. Now I know that you're featuring something. So this is where Modernism Week actually goes outside of the borders of Palm Springs. So did you want to talk to this?
Sure, this was an opportunity not to be passed up on. In October, that brief period of time when we could sort of travel safely, we had an opportunity to go out to the Farnsworth House and film. And we actually did two presentations there at the Farnsworth, with great thanks to Scott Mahaffey, the executive director of Farnsworth, who basically opened the door and said, "Hey, it's yours all day." It's like, wow, I'm going to take a nap in the bed. But the first one was Alex Beam, and he has a wonderful book out called Broken Glass. And it's a story of Edith Farnsworth and Mies van der Rohe and their relationship that went from collaboration to pretty much enemies.
Ending up in court.
But it tells the full history of the house, and it really gives attention to Edith Farnsworth, who the house would not be there if it wasn't for her. And of course, Mies van der Rohe was a genius and built, had designed the most beautiful home, but there were pluses and minuses, and the whole book goes through the angst and the wonderful relationship they had that then deteriorated. And then the second video we started there was called Modern in the Middle. And that's an excellent book about Chicago houses from 1929 to 1975. And it was, we interviewed Michelangelo Sabatino there at the Farnsworth. And then we interviewed his co-author, Susan Benjamin, at around 11 or 12 different houses around the Chicagoland area. And we did exteriors on. So, we had the most beautiful day, very memorable. And I think you have a clip of the Farnsworth, Edith and Mies van der Rohe one, but it was great fun to do this. We're at the Farnsworth House, and I'm here with author Alex Beam. We're going to talk about his book, Broken Glass.
This house that we're sitting in won't actually start construction until 49 for complicated reasons. So that's integral to their story. It's also, but it's integral to the unraveling of their intimate relationship. And the unraveling takes place in 49, 50, and 51. It seems, especially with the passage of time, that this house is an ideation that Mies had, a very powerful one, about glass, steel, and the beauty of nature. It's kind of a meditation.
Yeah, that was, just love that. It's a wonderful presentation. You learn a lot about why the house is named the Farnsworth and that relationship, but definitely worth a look-see.
And I saw that the Farnsworth House actually had an exhibit recently that it was restored, or just the exhibit was in the way that Edith had it when she lived there, which of course is, as you know, when we all go to modernist houses, that is not how people actually lived. We see them in sort of a more sterile state. Even the Lovell Health House had, Ken Topper was telling me about all the plants that his mother used to keep in that house. And that's not the vision that we necessarily align with what modernists might be like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting. I thought that was like a really forward-thinking exhibit. I wanted to ask you, following off on that, is you have some, an exhibit also, let me just share my screen again, about Paul Williams. And he was first African-American to be awarded the gold medal in the AIA, is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. Just a couple of years ago, some 30 years after he died.
And so what are you featuring on him at Modernism Week?
Well, we have a filmed interview that I did with Jonna Ireland, who is a photographer, a fine arts photographer in Los Angeles, who for the past several years has a project of photographing artistically all of Paul Williams' buildings. And she has this new book that you just saw the slide of with many of her slides, many of her photographs. But we also did this interview in a Paul Williams house. She and I sat down in front of the fireplace, beautifully photographed, I must say. Thank you, Mark, for arranging all of that. And having a really great conversation about Paul Williams. Jonna is African-American, so she brings a really interesting set of insights into what it was like to be an African-American in a white man's profession in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, all the way into the 1970s. And again, this is one of the things I love about Modernism Week is that it is breaking new ground. It is bringing to light and letting other people know about these dimensions, these corners, these facets of modern architecture, which have been ignored for decades. And as with the Edith Farnsworth story, how she was a major part of that famous house, and Paul Williams and his role in modern architecture is now being discovered, and Modernism Week is part of that rediscovery.
Right, and so Paul Williams, in case anyone's not familiar with it, was an architect to the stars, right, Alan? And designed not only in the modernist, modernist style, but also it looks almost like classical revival. Some of his sort of Regency, maybe Hollywood Regency would be a better word. How would you describe his approach to architecture?
Well, we don't have time to go through all this. Started out though as a master of traditional styles. Southern colonial and other, typical Spanish styles and so forth. But then in the 30s in Los Angeles, this modern city, he develops this interest for modern design, and the Hollywood Regency, which he participated in, is part of that. And then moving into what we would more call, full-blown modernism in the 40s and 50s. But he always had a connection to Palm Springs. He designed a Spanish set of apartments in I believe the 20s. He designed Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's house in the 50s. He designed the Town and Country Center with A. Quincy Jones and a number of other modern buildings. So he's a perfect choice to focus on in that part of our online experiences this year.
And he did design the Beverly Hills Hotel, right? Didn't he work on that as well?
Yeah.
And he is
Yeah.
he is going to be featured in our modern one as the subject of one of our modernism webinars, because I see there's a lot of new scholarship going on about his work. So as usual, Modernism Week is ahead of the curve on studying modernism. I think I have a couple more slides here to share real quick. That we could, maybe you could just talk about, Mark, some of the fun things. I know that Annalise is on here, as I mentioned, like Modern with a Twist. So Mod with a Twist is one of the most popular sort of, I guess, adjunct events that go on during Modernism Week. And there's going to be a little bit of that online. How can people participate in that?
Well, they brought the best of their presentations, and they're hilarious. Each person brings a whole different take to a certain subject that revolves around modernism, architecture, cultural, food, whatever. But it's done in a very, very interesting and funny way. And so they've created a new one for the February program, which is, it's just a lot of fun. And we are also doing an encore performance of their October one that they had done as well for Modernism Week. So, it brings a smile to your face. It's very, I want to say irreverent. It's just sometimes very risque. Probably couldn't show it on PG, but they have a great time doing this. And I think Annalisa even did one. I can't remember.
Yeah, Annalisa did one. I have a hilarious photograph of her.
Okay, you're there. Okay.
Doing one. Oh, she's in the chat right now. She goes, yes, she did. I have a funny one where she goes, all I talk about is my modern house, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So yes, Annalisa, if anyone is not familiar with her, is known as Miss Modernism. She's in the chat window right now, and she owns the famous Jack House in Sydney. And she is one of the biggest fans of Modernism Week. I think I met her there I think it was 12 years ago when we first met.
Probably, yeah. She knows more people in Palm Springs than we do.
She does know everybody. So I wanted to just, we'll close out this part and then we'll do a Q&A. If anyone has questions that they want to ask, this is the moment. And we will be sharing some exclusive gossip in just a few minutes. But first, before we get to that point, do you want to talk a little bit about the auction that you have? This is one of the auction items. I have this posted on the screen.
Would love to. We've not done one before, but we thought, hey, if we're going to do an online program, let's do an online auction. And we wanted to focus around a lot of the Modernism Week topics or presenters or friends of Modernism Week, things like that. So it was a little bit coherent and, it had sort of a theme to it. And this particular picture is of the Ablin House in Bakersfield, California. It's a Frank Lloyd Wright. It was the last design he did before he passed away. A very modest family. Millie Ablin wrote him a letter going, we'd love you to build a house, but we understand if you're too busy. It obviously touched him, and he designed this house. Now we have an overnight stay in this house. That doesn't happen. It's not generally open to the public, and it's never open for overnight stays. The most amazing thing about this house, it has all of the original furniture and built-ins. So it will be quite the experience for anyone who ends up being the winning bidder. And also, I don't know, can I get a screenshot of me back to Jonathan? Alan Hess again. It's an out of publication book, but his Frank Lloyd Wright, Mincegy Modern, and the Ablin House is written up and pictured in this book as well. So the winning bidder gets a book signed by Alan Hess to that person's name as part of the overnight stay.
And what is the website link for that? I'll post that in the chat.
Oh, still modernismweek.com.
Oh, and that you could get to the auction there.
Yeah, it's all connected there. But we have, sorry, a few props. Like
there goes Mark. Another one.
Michigan Modern, and also the two books. We have some gorgeous photographs by James Hefner, of some modernism buildings in the Detroit area. And it's from Modernism Week and Michigan Modern Day that 2 or 3 books came out of it through Gibbs Publishing. So that was a proud point of Modernism Week, when people get together, ideas are exchanged, and from a program comes a couple of really great books. Actually 3, I think. Susan Skarsgård as well had a book. So
oh yeah, Susan, she's fun. She's always in her electric dresses, and
exactly, she's your competition.
Yeah.
I know that all of us with our outfits.
And we talked about
Palm Springs.
Donna Ireland. She produced 3 images for us, special for Modernism Week, from her book, and they're beautiful. And I mean, I feel like this just came in by Federal Express. I feel like a shipping service here and warehouse. But this is a print from Tim Street Porter, and it's obviously a big print of the front cover of his book on Palm Springs that recently came out last year, of Martin Lawrence Ballard's home, Villa Grigio. So that's on the website, and I have the image right here. I'm not going to unroll it, but it's a gorgeous image. We have everything from a Lego set. The highest bidding object is a Lego set of Farnsworth House, because it's no longer in production. I mean, they were sold for $59 back in the 80s, and they're worth $500 or $600 now, and that's being bid up quite nicely. Gosh, we have stays and homes in Palm Springs, Ahmad Ranch, a Joshua Tree, a little bit of everything.
Ride.
What was that, Alan?
The helicopter ride.
Oh, and a helicopter ride, yeah. Oh my God. You fly over Palm Springs with the helicopter pilot and a guide, and you get a tour of all the neighborhoods and everything. For 2 people. And then they will land up in the mountains in a remote space to have a catered picnic. And then you're back to the private terminal at Palm Springs. That's what we do in Palm Springs. That's just a normal day.
There's also some things donated by Moshe Softy.
Yes.
Okay.
There's
Wonderful.
a tour of Daniel Liebskin's office in New York City.
Yeah, Daniel Liebskin was our keynote speaker last February, and Moshe Softy the year before. So they were so friendly and helpful in providing some auction items for us. They loved Modernism.
Also, Mark got at the GM Tech Center, a tour arranged, and that is never open to the public. And so
Alan gave a thumbs up for that.
Yes, it's really good.
And you're going to get to go behind the scenes and see things that the public never gets to see. So it's really one of a kind.
And part of the tour is with the vice president of design at General Motors. So it's a VIP experience.
That's only what we go for in Palm Springs, you guys. VIP all the way. So we have a question for you for all 3 panelists, so we can start the Q&A. And thank you for sharing all that information, Mark, about the auction. I am definitely going to log in because I need a trip somewhere sooner or later. So Lisa wonders, what modernist structure would you most like to spend a night? And why don't we start with Alan on that one? I guess let's say modernist structure in Palm Springs and then maybe worldwide. Okay. Alan, what would you say?
I would probably, so many choices, but the Idris House by E. Stewart Williams, because of its setting and because it is just so mated to the desert in its materials and its setting and all of that. And it's by a brilliant architect. Yeah, I would love to spend some time there.
Okay, how about you, William and Mark? Where would you want to spend the night, in Palm Springs or elsewhere, modernist?
Well, William lived for a year in the Desert Kaufman House, so you have to come up with another one.
I don't know if you could get better than that. Okay, let's see.
I wasn't really aware of its significance when I first stayed there. Obviously, I am now. I think that actually the William Holden House up on Southridge by Hugh Captor, this fascinates me, and I also like the view of the Palm Springs area from that vantage.
And I have to say the Lautner Bob Hope House, because it's so out of this world. It's massive. It's just like nowhere else, and that would be an experience to stay there for a night.
That's what I was going to say, Mark. I was going to say that. I was going to say Bob Hope one because I haven't been there, but maybe I'll stay at the Steve McQueen down the street, and you can stay at Bob Hope.
That'd be good.
Okay, so I don't know if we have any other questions. If anyone has any more questions for the panelists, go ahead and post those now. We just have a couple more minutes. Let me ask you, do you have a keynote speaker for April? I didn't remember if you mentioned that. Or, I mean, let's consider that everything should go as planned. Would you have a keynote speaker in April?
We hope to. I hope to. It's not confirmed yet, but I hope to.
Mm-hmm. And tickets are
But
already on sale.
It wouldn't be in person. It would not be in person. It would be online.
Okay. So it's almost a hybrid event in April.
Yeah.
All right. So, Andrew Danish, I haven't seen Andrew in forever.
Oh my God. Andrew
He's
Danish.
in the chat room. Hey, Andrew. So Andrew's written a number of books, right, on modernism. And he goes, he hopes someday to see everybody again in person. So I think we're just about rounding it up. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I saw that George Smart came through on one of the notifications. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to tune into his presentation that he did for Modernism Week in February, which is on his archive. You know, the U.S. Modernist archives, they're amazing. Once you start looking at them, you'll go down a rabbit hole, and 5 or 6 hours later, you'll wonder where the time went. But they have been meticulously collecting. So he has a very tongue-in-cheek, fun video that describes really how to use the archives and what's there. And, you know, it's classic George Smart.
George, I went to his party in Palm Springs last year at the Kirk Douglas house. I remember I went to that. And you're right. So George actually is hosting the Florida Modern Survey that I completed for the University of Florida. And he took over my mission66.com site, which is all of the visitor centers from the National Park Service between 1956 and 66. I had that website up for about 15 or 20 years. I took it down, and the next day after I took it down, because I said, that's it, I'm not going to do it anymore. The next day, George writes to me and he goes, "Where's your website?" He goes, can we archive it? So George, we want to thank you, because you do have so much information on your website, all the magazines that you've been featuring. And I saw him up here in the chat. And Nelson says thank you. Lisa Smith says thank you. So, there's George. So I wanted to, yes, Alan.
Can I add something? I wanted to credit Andrew Danish because he's really the one who got me involved with Palm Springs. He came to me with the idea of writing a book on Palm Springs, which we co-authored, Palm Springs Weekend. And that's what, and when would that come out? You know, it's 15, 20 years ago. I can't, 20.
1906.
Yeah. And it's just grown ever since then. And I've just been so proud. I'm so proud to be on the board of Modernism Week. But what Modernism Week has done, because it's not only Palm Springs, it is the entire Southwest, was an incubator for great modern architecture. And it really hasn't been completely recognized for that. But Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, even Reno, certainly Los Angeles, Palm Springs, El Paso, you name it. All of these smaller cities generated such great original modern architecture, which did not require Europeans to come over to plant the seed for. It generated out of this marvelous area. So,
no, definitely. Thanks, Alan.
Can I mention two things?
Yes.
One, and it just went out of my head. No, one will be that, the latest gossip in Palm Springs.
Yes, oh my gosh, I almost forgot the gossip.
News.
Please tell us the gossip.
This is why preservation is important. This is one reason.
Well, recently it was uncovered that Ron Burkle, who owns the Bob Hope House, and he used to own the Ennis House, a very good patron of preservation and everything, sort of went shopping in Palm Springs and bought the Willows Hotel and the O'Donnell House, Valerie's Restaurant, and then the Art Colony, which is a sort of a series of structures that go up the hill near the tennis club. And it will be part of the Soho Club that he's a big part of. And the museum is already working with them for some programming. So to me, that says a lot about Palm Springs and preservation. Here is someone who could do anything he wants anywhere in the world. And it's Palm Springs, which will hopefully be the next location for a Soho Club, which is a pretty big deal for, well-traveled people.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful news. I want to just go like house shopping in Palm
I know.
Springs. We did have somebody on here who said that she just finished her down payment or something, and she's closing on a house in Palm Springs. So, and that's one of my plans in the future, you guys. You know, I want to
Well,
set
if
up
Modernism
set
Week
up
had a
house there.
commission, if Modernism Week had a commission from every house sold because they came to Modernism Week,
Mhm.
we'd be funded forever.
Oh, it's Cindy. She goes, that's me. Here I come. Her name is Cindy. So Cindy, welcome to the community. I can testify that the people in Palm Springs, the Modernists and everybody else is so friendly. And except that one time I got kicked off. I was going to ask you, one time I was with Robert Imber and I got kicked off that Santa Fe Bank property, and we got kicked off of that before that building was done. So Alex was mentioning in question and answer, there are a couple of significant buildings in Palm Springs that have been restored that people don't even realize they were ever in danger, like the gas station, which is now the visitor center when you come in. That was a huge
and
battle.
it was in danger of being torn down for a Tuscan shopping center.
And there's nothing around it. That's what's so funny. It's like bare land all over the place. Why would you tear down such a beautiful structure, which is now seen as the almost like a trademark of the Palm Springs as you come in? And then also the museum, which was by Beth Harris, donated a lot of the money, and she was the co-owner of the Kaufman House, right, for the Art and Design Museum, and that has been completed. That building was in danger.
It was, and yes,
Or
Beth
change.
Edwards Harris was a major funder for the Edwards Harris Pavilion, the Architecture and Design Center, the Palm Springs Art Museum, and that is where there will be a Frey exhibition. Hopefully, at the beginning,
wonderful.
at the end of this year, early next year, to tie into Luminaire.
Didn't that just bring us around in a lovely circle
Yes,
of preservation?
There's a lot of things happening in Palm Springs, and it's just a very exciting time to be here.
So I wanted to close up. Alan, can you just let people know how they can follow you? Maybe your Instagram, Facebook. What is the best way to keep up with everything Alan Hess?
Mostly on Facebook, Alan Hess. On Instagram, Alan Hess Architect is my name. And yeah, that's probably the best way.
Oh, I do have one more bit of news.
Okay.
Because the press release hasn't been gone out on it. We have a new board member of Modernism Week, and it's Frances Anderton, who
wonderful.
She recently left KCRW. She always had that great program, DNA. She's come to Modernism Week for the past 2 or 3 years and done presentations. And she was, for instance, the moderator with with Daniel Liebskin. I'm getting all my Starchitects mixed up. We have so many at Palm Springs. And so we're very, very proud that she has decided to honor us with being on the board. So
that's wonderful news.
Will be her first full month, really.
That's great. That's great. So where can people keep in touch? We have modernismweek.com, and then that's also the same Instagram, I'm assuming?
Modernism Week Modernism _week, I believe it is. Is it?
I don't know.
On Insta.
Yeah.
I would say go to modernismweek.com and you can find all the connections.
That's true. There are links to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
Well, thank you guys for being such good sports. We lost John somewhere because he just said, Chris, you take it away on this one. But I wanted to thank the three of you really for giving everyone the information that they're going to need so they can enjoy a whole month of Modernism Week, right? So everything is online until the end of February. Yeah. And you can already buy tickets for the April experiences if you go to modernismweek.com.
And the auction ends on the 15th of February.
Oh my gosh, so I better get on that.
Bid high and bid often.
Okay, everybody's saying hello, goodbye. Anyways, thank you guys so much. And I hope to see you, if not April, then for sure, February 2022.
Well, Christine, thank you for putting all this together. You are a powerhouse here. Thank you so much.
And the California Preservation Foundation does great work.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Alan. Yes, and please donate and contribute any place you can.
Yeah, hello to Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
Thank you. So we'll check in with you guys later. Have a good time at Modernism Week.
It was great fun. Thank you, Christine. Okay.